Never miss a thing with Mdntv, the podcast. We love to keep you in the present with diverse goodies from secular and non-secular subjects of global interest. Join us. Grab more from these series. Listen to our podcasts. The undeniable choice.
It's sundown. The day has just begun. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Yes. Ha ha. This is MDN Shows are running with the times only on Mdntv, the podcast. And I am Major Daughter. Welcome to all our listeners and viewers around the world. Meet us in the comments. We are live there. Engage, ask questions, share this program. Look, we serve today's audiences everywhere. Wherever you are, we are reaching you. Now, if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Because this is the hottest show on the planet. Yeah. And today, I'm excited. Let me tell you why. There have been people who have been saying things like, we've been buying dips after dips. Now, I think they are really dipped in the deep. Because there seems to be no change, but it doesn't matter whether it's bullish or bearish. It is possible to make profit and to still gain, but it matters what you know, because all that depends on what you know, your knowledge, how far you can go. Right. Well, my guest is gonna liberate many of you. Today we're talking Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and some of those that they call the ass coins. Would not want to call it by what they really call it on this show. Well, what are you waiting for? Tell your friends to tell their friends to jump in right after this.
Mdntv, the podcast. Be abreast with now. Never miss a thing with Mdntv, the podcast. We love to keep you in the present with diverse goodies from secular and non-secular subjects of global interest. Join us. Grab more from these series. Listen to our podcasts. The undeniable choice.
The undeniable choice indeed for today is Zachary Daniel. And I'll just call him Zach for today. Look, he moved from medicine to investing. He moved from medicine to finance. And he says he lives an unconventional life. And he is giving himself a very good break and a very big break. He's having fun and he's rich and he's got varied experiences that he draws from. But today, I think we'd like to really focus and zoom in this experience on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So thanks a gazillion times, Zach, for saying yes and for sharing yourself with the world. We welcome you. Please take this opportunity to greet our viewers and listeners around the world. Tell us, why did you move from medicine to investing, finance? How did that happen? Zach, the mic swings to you now.
Thank you, thank you, Major. I gotta say that
Yes.
was one of the best intros I've ever heard. So much energy, so much passion. I loved it.
Thank
that was awesome.
you.
If anyone's not listening to this podcast, I don't know what they're doing because the host is obviously killing it. So, yeah, I gotta give it up there. And I appreciate you having me. I appreciate for anyone listening here right now.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, I will just cut right to it. I moved from medicine, nuclear medicine was my original background, to finance because that was my passion.
Yes.
That's where I saw the most opportunity to fulfill myself and to help other people. I love nuclear medicine. I loved all the healthcare. My mom was a nurse, and that influenced a lot of why I went into it. But finance is really where everything lies. And at the end of the day, money, as much as we don't like to admit it, is one of the most important things in the world. And so helping people understand it and trying to take advantage of it is really fulfilling to me. And obviously, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and crypto today, but that's really my subspecialty. Um, and yeah, and I think that's one way that people can really, you know, there's a need because there's a lot of miseducation, there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of scams, or it's a new technology which is tough to understand. So I like that aspect of my job and helping people take advantage of it. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, no, nuclear medicine was great, and for anyone listening that doesn't know what
No,
nuclear
maybe
medicine is,
maybe tell us what is nuclear
yeah,
medicine, because before we even go deeper into the finance, because some people have never heard of it. I mean, we know of nuclear, but medicine, nuclear medicine, Zach?
yeah, yeah, we're creating a bunch of Hulks. That's what's happening. No, yeah, nuclear medicine is like imaging fields. So like you have MRI, you got CT, X-ray. Those all look at body systems, bones, ligaments, tendons, all sorts of structure. Nuclear medicine is all about the function. So how are the kidneys functioning? How are the lungs, the heart, the gallbladder, all these different systems, how are they functioning? And we do that through injecting nuclear isotopes tagged to a pharmaceutical. And, that allows us to image different body systems using that radiation. Now, yeah, when people are injected with nuclear isotopes, they're radioactive. They'll walk around and they're out giving radiation to other people. But uh, unlike what's in the movies, where like the Hulk or Bruce Banner has like gamma radiation and it changes the whole body structure, in nuclear medicine, the radiation that we give people generally doesn't harm them like they show in the movies. It really doesn't interact with the human body that well. Um, Generally just goes through it. Now, of course, there's no danger to radiation, but it's greatly exaggerated as in the movies. But I really think nuclear medicine's an interesting field. We do a lot of cancer screenings, got a lot of cancer imaging, so really awesome field. But yeah, back to Bitcoin, back to
Yes.
finance.
So if nuclear medicine was this exciting for you, so it sounds very exciting, and what you do, you are helping the human race. So why did you move from nuclear medicine to investing? How did you even get started on investing and finance? Zach?
Yeah, yeah, both of them are really rewarding. I guess for me, finance was just more rewarding personally. So that's probably, what ended up pushing me that way. But
Yes.
I started by self-teaching, uh, kind of self-learning and doing my own investing. And and then it took, to be an investment advisor, you have to pass the advisor law exam, Series 65. So I studied, I passed the exam, and then I was able to, start my business and build my practice. Um, so it wasn't easy, and it definitely was a big risk, moving from the certainty of a really stable job that I liked to the uncertainty of your own business, in a field that is still developing, right? There are very few investment advisors out there that
Yes.
deal in Bitcoin or their cryptocurrency. In fact, I might be the only one in my state that does. So there's very few out there, and so yeah, there was a big risk of uncertainty and being young in the industry and not having you know uh, most investment advisors are a lot of them are much older, 50 years old, 60 years old. So there's something new and challenging about it. But I thought I had something to offer in it, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Hmm. I, this is very interesting, but let's get into what has been going on. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
People have been buying dips, and I'm gonna start there because we've received so many
yeah.
questions from people who wants to know, where is cryptocurrency going? Is there future there? What is even the future of the so-called as coins? Should anyone even bother themselves
Yeah.
there before we even talk about Bitcoin? Because people
Mhm,
have bought so much, they've invested, if I can put it that way,
mhm,
on the dips, taking the dips, thinking, okay, we're about to see something happen, and nothing happened
mhm.
literally. What about even Luna? I'm throwing all this at you because there are those who even took their chances on Luna when it crashed. believing
Yeah,
that
they got
something
yeah.
is gonna happen. Liberate the people,
Yeah.
Zach.
Yeah, no, I love how you call it, ass coin. That's apt term for most of it. Um, yeah, no, y with outside of Bitcoin, I would say Bitcoin is investing, very high risk investing, but outside of Bitcoin, it's gambling. Um, a lot of these tokens are going to zero, have gone to zero. The space is riddled with some scams, empty promises, bad teams, bad execution, no market, um, bad tokenomics, bad security. There's whole sorts of reasons why these projects fail, um, and 99% of them do. You're gambling a lot on these projects that someone else is going to be the greater fool. There are some good projects in the space, but it's tough to delineate what is a scam and not because of the lack of information and the lack of expertise for a lot of people, right? Um, if you looked at the Luna ecosystem, from me as an investment advisor in the space, I've been very skeptical. I never bought Luna because I kind of understood what the structure was, and it didn't make sense money wise. But I had a lot of new people that would approach me and like, oh hey, Elon Musk bought Dodge or Dogecoin. I'm gonna buy Dogecoin because it's funny and it's a meme. And you know what? I can try to tell them that it's not gonna work out, but um, but some people just have to figure it out for themselves, which is unfortunate. But I would definitely say for people that are getting into the space that you have to understand that Bitcoin is different from everything else in the industry.
Mm.
So, um, you know, when you look at Bitcoin, and again, I'm an investment advisor, but don't come and take investment advice that you're going to go throw all your money in Bitcoin or something. But Bitcoin's different from the entire rest of the space, and that Bitcoin is going to be here for the future. Um, that there is longevity in Bitcoin. That it's more measurable. You can better measure the value of Bitcoin, right? It's going for what 14 years now, uninterrupted. There's never been a network breach. There's never been a network hack. There's always been a strong use case, a continuing adoption, continuing penetration in financial
Yes.
markets and financial institutions. Um, every single metric of Bitcoin has grown. And yes, there's huge price volatility, right? You see price go down 60, 70%, and that's very scary. But the thing about price volatility is you can't have high risk or you can't have high reward without high risk, right? No no asset that's going to go up, very, up a lot of percent is going to, not go down a lot of percent. That's just how an emerging technology um, and speculative investment goes. What separates Bitcoin from the other sphere is Bitcoin has already established itself with its different properties and its entrenchment and its technology, versus a lot of other projects aren't really that decentralized. A lot of them have VCs or funds that have started the project and expect to make profit off of it and everything. And really, a lot of people that buy in these projects are just ending up as their exit liquidity. So they're just dumping these projects on people, and it's unfortunate because um, a lot of people get hurt. Like you said, all these ass coins, and it's big and flashy, and you hear about stories of people making 100x or 50x their money in like a short time span. And for every person that does that, 1,000 people have to lose all their money. Um, so it's just I caution people when they get into the space, take a deep breath, learn about Bitcoin first, and if you do want to um, learn about the rest of the space, do it with a very small percentage of your portfolio of what you're willing to lose, because most of it
Mm.
is not good. And even me as an investment advisor, even me as someone who's been in the space for 6 7 years, um, I'm going to be wrong about some projects. You know, it's just how it is. It's like kind of like the early internet. There's a ton of new promising tech, but only a few are really going to survive to that kind of juggernaut spear. I think that's the same way as it is today. And it's tough when to separate Bitcoin from the rest of the industry. You got NFTs, you got, I would say, you know, a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes right now, like NFTs. Oh my gosh, like no, don't go
Yes,
down that road.
yes,
Yeah, yes,
precisely.
they're like Yeah, they're like, "This is just a picture, this is just a JPEG," and for the most part, I agree. Um, I think the NFT space represented the worst parts of the entire crypto industry as far as greed and lying and fraud, but underlying it, they're not going away. NFTs are not going away as much as, almost hurts me to admit it, because if the space frustrates me too, but, um there is underlying use of NFTs that are gonna be implemented down the road that are it's gonna be valuable. Um, we could go down that what those specifics are, but, the bottom line is the space is growing, but the future is very bright for Bitcoin. So I and something if you're in Bitcoin or in crypto and you're really worried about the prices, especially Bitcoin, you probably have too much invested. You probably are overexposed to it. That's what I would say. Um, a lot of Bitcoin people that I know, and now again, this is investment advice, but Bitcoin people I know don't really care about the price. They understand that this is a volatile asset. They understand that they have a long time frame. Um, they're willing to wait they have more than 1 year. They're willing to wait 3, 4, 5 years to experience significant gain, because they for them it represents a little bit more than a investment. It represents some for some people it's an ethos. For some people it's you could say it's like a cult like following, but so a lot of people it represents freedom. You know, for me, if I was to send someone, I think you're in South Africa. If I was to
Yes,
send
yes,
you, there's no way I could send you one US dollar. There's no way I could send you, but I could send you Bitcoin, and I could send you
yes.
Bitcoin without our banks being involved, without a third party being involved, without any trust being involved, without any of that being involved, and I could do it on a network that is the strongest computer network that's ever existed in human history. Um, I think that's a very valuable thing, and the crazy part is the network continues to grow, the number of users continues to grow, um, the technology being built on Bitcoin, like the Lightning Network, continues to grow, and uh, and the fact that it's sitting around at 20,000 or I don't have a crystal ball that says how low can it go, um, but if you look at yeah, I
Yes.
don't have a crystal ball. I don't wanna speculate, but all I can say for sure is that you look at where Bitcoin is today and where it's headed, compared to the pricing, and it seems like a very a mismatch, right? That's all I'll say there. Uh, people have a very short time preference, people have a very short memory, and they aren't very patient. Everything's now, right? We're an attention economy, we need
I
it
mean,
now, we have very
we
short
have
attention.
instant everything. We have
Yeah,
microwaves that makes you
mhm,
have whatever you want instantly. There are those who are concerned about, they feel like it's already too late to get into
mm,
Bitcoin now. Let's talk about you and how would you advise those ones who feel like, well, it's too far now. When did you
yeah,
get into Bitcoin and how? And what about those who feel like, well, it's gone too far. I can't come in now. What will you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
say to them, Zach?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and that's what a lot of people have. I have a lot of people that are like, "Well, it's 18,000 or it's 30,000, 40,000. I can't afford a whole Bitcoin." Well, you can buy like $5 a Bitcoin, first of all. But when I first got into Bitcoin, the first time I was exposed to it was in 2014. The price was like $300 a Bitcoin. I was a college kid. I think I bought like a tenth of a Bitcoin. Um, Kind of really didn't do much with it. It was really 2016, 2017 when I got very heavy into it, and have just been basically obsessed since 2016. And I already when I got in, I thought I was late, and the price was like $1,000. Um, I was like, this thing was like free like 10 years ago. This thing was
Yo.
trading at a penny like 10 years ago. I'm like way late. What am I doing? But I
Yes.
understood what the I started understanding about after 6 months what the technology behind Bitcoin was, and I was like, wow, this is groundbreaking. This is like the internet, this is like printing press, this is like one of the biggest inventions of probably this century. And yeah, it might be, $1,000 per coin might seem ridiculous now, but if I'm looking at what the market of this technology is, I mean, this is like so early. This is a bargain.
Yes.
And I think even at 18,000, Bitcoin is a very, very, very small niche part of the entire global value system still. So, um, I don't think Bitcoin's going to come out here and like replace the US dollar or anything like that tomorrow or anything like, that drastic. But the addressable market for Bitcoin is way, way larger than it is today. So yeah, relative eight, it's not like Bitcoin's gonna go up 200x. I'm sorry, that's just the days of that are gone. Um, I still think Bitcoin has significant appreciation to go, but yeah, it's interesting. People that bought Apple in the 1990s thought they were too late, and look at it today. People that bought Amazon in '07 thought they were too late, and look at
Mm,
So people always think they're late, um, and it's just kind of an excuse for inaction, right? Um, yeah, it's not too late. What I would say is, just people should just learn about it, and then if they feel comfortable, get a little exposure, because I think there is a lot of growth to come. And I was gonna say something else. Oh yeah, so uh, how I would think about it is, think if someone came back to you in the '90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, and said, "Hey, there's this thing called the internet. You
yes.
can you can actually own a piece of the internet." Today, everyone would be like, "Oh, that's a no-brainer. Like, I could actually own a piece of like the internet." That's kind of how I see Bitcoin, as far as like you're owning a piece of financial infrastructure for the future. You're owning a piece of the collective base layer of a value system on the internet. Um, I think that's a very valuable thing to be a part of. And
Yes.
so that's kind of how, and I view the other kind of crypto everything. So Bitcoin, I would view as like the actual base layer of the internet, and I would view all the other crypto companies as kind of like the other companies that are on the internet, the Apples, the Facebook, the Microsoft, the Googles. Um, Now, none of those other cryptocurrencies do we know are here to stay, or we're going to become that equivalent. But that's how the analogy that I would use to kind of make an easy comparison to what the internet, because a lot of people understand now today how big the internet was. But back in the '90s or early 2000s, it didn't seem like it was going to penetrate our society like it does today.
Yes.
And that's the kind of same place where Bitcoin and crypto is a very small percentage of society is exposed to this, understands it, and it's going to take a long time. It may be like 15, 20 years. People are going to look back and be like, "Oh yeah, of course it was obvious. Of course, hindsight's 2020."
Mm,
And it's tough to have that kind of forward thinking. But there's also risk in that. You can't predict the future. It doesn't matter how much research or how sure I am about certain things. There's always a risk that I miscalculated or I'm wrong or certain events change. And so that's why when people are worried about, well, is Bitcoin going down farther? Am I going to lose all my money? It's like, if that's your case, then you probably are too invested in it. You probably have too much in it. You should probably scale back and just have what you're comfortable in it. And the more you learn about it, generally, the more you can put at risk into Bitcoin because you're more comfortable with the ecosystem. Like for me personally, I'm comfortable having 20 to 50% of my investable assets in Bitcoin at certain times, um, because I understand the space very well and I understand the risk very well and I understand what I think the reward is. And I also just believe in the technology, as far as I like having autonomy. I like having my money outside the purview of the government and the banks. And, obviously in the US, we have very strong laws about property and stuff, but that's not the whole world. A lot of the world can have their bank accounts frozen because they said or did something that the ruling party didn't like. They can have their money confiscated. They can have their property seized. Having something outside the purview of direct governmental control is a valuable
mm.
thing, because absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the most absolute power in the world is people's money, right? People's money is their entire life. All their savings, all the work that they've ever done, maybe their grandparents' work is all in that money. And if you give that power to a few individuals, it's going to inevitably be corrupted. So I think there's an inherent value in Bitcoin being a money outside that, based on rules and computer algorithms and not people that can control it. So, um, yeah, so the more people learn about it, the more comfortable they can be about it. And obviously, being an investment advisor, I'm focused on the investment front for people. Um,
Yes.
but there's a lot of the world that maybe doesn't care about the investment and cares about the actual utility. Like when I went down to El Salvador, I was using Bitcoin for payments, um, for my local papusa or my hotel room or something. And in that case, businesses are using it as currency. So yeah,
Whew.
it's exciting, exciting. Yeah, I'm sorry, I get really long winded whenever I talk about
Well,
anything
I
Bitcoin or
see the
crypto.
passion. I see the passion. And look, it's because I think you are everything Bitcoin. Now, there are people wants you to be more specific as to what level can they really uh, enter with, those ones to get in now, what level, figures wise, numbers wise,
Gotcha.
and what
All right.
which platforms as well, if I can throw that in, which platforms security wise are safe for one to really be the ones that they're using to get into Bitcoin.
That's okay. Both good questions. I'm an investment advisor, so I have
Mm,
to be careful about exactly what I say regarding price levels. Um, but I will say this: I think if you're able to acquire Bitcoin at any price under $30,000 USD, that's a strong place to start. Um, I think the absolute lowest that I could see Bitcoin going is about 10,000, and that would probably coincide with the global economy also experiencing a very sharp downturn. So I know people like to wait and time the bottom, and this is the problem: that people get greedy at the top and people get greedy at the bottom. So I remember sitting back in 2018 when Bitcoin fell from 20,000 to 3,500, and people are like, "Well, I think I'm gonna wait till 3,000. I think I'm gonna wait till 2,500," and it never came. And then they sat there and they bought in at 8,000 or 9,000 finally. So I think when you're under a price range, and at that time I was saying, okay, anytime you get Bitcoin under 6,000, you're probably good. Right now, I'm kind of saying anytime you buy Bitcoin under 30,000, probably good. There's no crystal ball. I think the lowest is 10,000. I think we could retest 16.5 or the local low. But if you're looking at the long term trajectory, if you're thinking, okay, this asset is still young, I think it's going to be in the triple or the six digits. I think it's going to be well over 100,000 in the next 5 years. Well, does it matter if you bought at 16,000 or 20,000 or 13,000? Is that going to make a material difference? The answer is no. The material difference is if you are like, wow, I'm going to wait till it falls to 12,000. And all of a sudden it's up at 45. And then you're like, okay, well now I got to you FOMO in. And all of a sudden, instead of buying at 20, you're buying at 45. That's a material difference if it gets to 100, 150, 200, 200,000. So that's the kind of advice I would give for people as far as they're looking at certain price levels. Of course, there's certain things I'm looking for, and one of my favorite Bitcoin momentum indicators just flashed um,
mm,
like 3 weeks
mm.
ago, and the last price increases after the circumstances of this happening were 35%, 600%, 400%, and 1,500% as far as the price increases for the assets. So take that with a grain of salt. Um, one price signal is not something to trade off of, uh, but yeah, no, that's that. And then as far as the platforms, obviously in the U.S. here, it might be different than what can be accessed in South Africa
Yes.
or around the globe. Each jurisdiction is different. In the U.S., I'm very for people that just want to start getting exposure, any of the major exchanges as far as like Coinbase, I think Gemini, and now of course Gemini's have been in the news of the SEC and the Earn stuff, and that's separate from the rest of the platform. So there's some nuance there, but Kraken, Cash App, um, all good platforms to acquire Bitcoin on. And if you're only doing a small amount, you know what, you can probably keep it on the exchange. But I like taking possession of my Bitcoin myself, downloading a software wallet. So Moon's a really good software wallet,
Mm.
Munn. Samurai is a really good software wallet if you want to deal with a bunch of altcoins. Exodus is a good software wallet, and so that way you can take possession of your Bitcoin. You're not relying on the exchanges or anything. I have used Binance in the past, but obviously there's been a lot of controversy about Binance. I don't think that they're necessarily in trouble, but I would not keep a significant amount of my assets on that platform. I would only use it to try to trade or something else if I was going to use it. Um, I don't know what your uh, whatever jurisdiction you're in, you're probably going to have to use whatever the popular centralized exchange is. But after that, you can take possession of your crypto yourself by using one of those software wallets. And I like Moon is that it's integrated with the Lightning Network. So if users aren't familiar with the Lightning Network, do a little research. I probably would need another 30 minutes to go into the long-winded explanation of that. But that's what I would say as far as price level. And then, um, you know, the, if anything, 2022 showed us is that you can't trust, central parties. Voyager went down. Uh, Celsius went down, FTX went down, Three Arrows went down, and BlockFi went down, Genesis went down, and it's the same issues that our regular financial system has with central parties is the same thing that crypto has with central parties. It's just when things collapse in crypto, there's no one to bail it out, right? When things happen in the global financial sphere, the governments and the central banks will bail out the players. And there's a little bit more rules and regulation, which makes people act a little more honestly. But the thing is, and a lot of people like to point, well, look at all this fraud or stealing or whatever, and I agree, it's unfortunate, but it's people doing that with the technology. It's not the technology itself. So Bitcoin is agnostic. Um, it's indifferent. What people choose to do with other, try to manipulate people for their Bitcoin or their other crypto, that's that's always going to happen. Criminals are always going to use whatever the cutting edge technology is to get the
Yes.
edge, right? Uh, they're always going to do that. They did that with every invention that's ever really happened. The internet, heck, automobiles. The criminals were one of the first people to use automobiles. So the new
Yes.
technologies are always going to attract criminals, and it's unfortunate, but people got to really be diligent and responsible um, about how they handle their money. So yeah, I would say get it. You might have to use a central exchange that you might not necessarily trust, but you can take possession of your Bitcoin after that. You don't have to leave it on there, and
Yes.
so don't don't if you're gonna do it, leave with small amounts. Do a little trading or buy some alts, whatever you want to do with it. For the most part, take possession of it. Um, protect your keys. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
hopefully that
everywhere.
hopefully that answered the audience. Hopefully that answered the audience's
That is
question.
perfect. That is perfect. And the risk is everywhere. Everywhere there's risk. So it's not like you can run away from the risk, but you can have a calculate. You can take a
Mhm.
calculated risk. Now, somebody's
Exactly.
asking, this one is from one of our listeners. What is the difference between Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin? And what will you have to say about Bitcoin mining? Zach?
Yeah, Bitcoin mining is a hot topic because obviously it takes up a
Uh,
lot of energy, and I don't know if that's the exact angle they were going with it, but yeah, Bitcoin mining takes up a lot of energy. The thing is, you can't get something for nothing, right? That just doesn't exist. So, in order for Bitcoin to have the security that it does, and the network kind of robustness that it does, it needs to gain that from somewhere. And for Bitcoin, it's through energy. It's through computational power of doing the quote unquote useless hashing algorithm over and over and over again to secure the network. So that's how Bitcoin generates its security is through energy. You cannot secure the Bitcoin network anywhere near the same without proof of work, without Bitcoin mining. It just wouldn't happen. And a lot of people like to point to Ethereum. Well, Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake, and now look at it, reduced its carbon footprint by like 99%. Yeah, it did, but the network security is compromised, right? Now it's proof of stake, and it's much more susceptible to compromisation of the network, and you know, blocking transactions or freezing wallets or all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it hasn't necessarily happened yet, but if you're going to build the base value layer of a new monetary uh, medium for the internet, you have to have security and decentralization, and that's what Bitcoin mining provides. I would also say that Bitcoin mining generally is very eco-friendly. At least 50% of Bitcoin mining is using renewable energy or resources. I was involved in a project just 2 years ago that didn't come to fruition, unfortunately. But we were going to take methane that a brewery was firing off, flaring off, just
Hmm.
wasting, and we were gonna take it, we were gonna scrub it, so we were gonna make it cleaner, and then we were gonna run Bitcoin miners on the site and use that, to generate Bitcoin. And we would have been a net positive for the environment in that we would have taken the methane that would have been burned for free, and we were gonna clean it and then use it for an economic use. And there's a lot of instances of that in Bitcoin mining because it's all about how can you get the cheapest electricity possible. And a lot of the times that the cheapest electricity is through renewable energy resources or what we like to call stranded energy resources, which is like gas flare offs and oil fields or something that are just being wasted. So that's something about Bitcoin mining. I would say one of the and Bitcoin mining, it just shows some of the resilience of Bitcoin is like a year and a half ago, China banned Bitcoin mining and half the network went offline, right? Half Bitcoin
Hmm.
mining just went offline. And, if Bitcoin didn't skip a beat, Bitcoin didn't miss anything. There was no downtime, no nothing. Just imagine for a second any other computer network in the world, if half of its computing power went offline, what would happen?
Wow. That'll
If
be
half of
chaos.
Amazon compute it'd be chaos. If half of
That'll be
NORAD went down, if half of
chaos.
Amazon went
Yeah.
down, it'd be absolutely crazy. But with Bitcoin, half the network went offline in 2 minutes, nothing changed. So, Bitcoin mining is I think it's often misunderstood. It's often viewed as a negative. I view it as a positive. Now it all kind of depends if you think that the energy using energy to secure the Bitcoin network is useless because Bitcoin's useless, then you're probably going to view Bitcoin mining negatively. But I view it positively because there's no way that you can secure uh, the Bitcoin network without using energy that I've seen, and I haven't seen anyone propose anything that even rivals any of the security features of Bitcoin without using energy like that. Because nothing, you can't make something out of nothing, right? And people are, so you can't make something out of nothing. So that's what I would say as far as Bitcoin mining. Um, it- there are some risks as far as consolidation in the industry. Maybe if, a certain player owns too much of the mining power, um, that they could try to attack Bitcoin. But I could go into a long-winded speech about all the kind of nuances of that and what the likelihoods would be.
Yes.
That there's certainly there's a small risk, but it's very small and kind of counterintuitive to an economic sense. So yeah, hopefully that answers that user's
So
question about mining.
yeah, so what do you say to those who put their money on Bitcoin mining? Should they
You
continue?
have to
Because there
be
are those who have their money on Bitcoin
in
mining. They're
Bitcoin.
actually investing on
Yeah,
Bitcoin mining. Is good or
yeah, but
bad? Ugly? Is it
no,
a risk?
yeah, yeah, it is a risk. Bitcoin mining is tough. It's a brutal industry. But if you have access to cheap electricity, it can be profitable. I've done Bitcoin mining when I had chances to. So during the 2017 2018 bear market, you know S9s and a lot of mining equipment was going on cheap. So you're able to pick up mining equipment cheap during the bear market, and then if you have access to cheap electricity, it is good. I think Bitcoin mining is can be very good for people. I know for me it was because you got mining equipment on the cheap. You get access to cheap electricity, And then, I sold my mining machines when they became very expensive and when everyone wanted them. So not only did I, was mining Bitcoin and, supporting the network and earning on it, but then I was able to resell my machine at a higher cost later when, Bitcoin had gone up, way up in price and everything else. So I I think Bitcoin mining is important. Um, I think it can make economic sense, but you have to be careful about it. You wouldn't just want to go out and buy any old mining machine from the internet just because you're like, I just want to mine Bitcoin and I think it's going to make me a ton of money. You have to kind of do the math. You have to figure out what your kilowatts per hour are as far as electricity wise. There are
Yes.
multiple there are multiple websites. I think Crypto Compare is a good one where you can type in what your electricity cost is, what the mining hash rate that you could get with that machine, how many watts it takes, and then measure exactly what your ROI would be on that machine. So I would recommend people doing that. Figure out how much your electricity costs, look online and see what the machine that you're looking for is going for, and how much network power it's or hashing terahash it's producing, and then do the math. And if it's economical, I if I would do it. Um, One, I just like supporting the Bitcoin network, so I'm a little biased there. But two,
Yes.
you're
Your
getting
honesty
Bitcoin.
is appreciated.
Yeah. I have to come out. I am a little biased. So, yeah. Then you're getting Bitcoin, and then when when the prices go up again, you can sell that machine um, for a much higher price than you probably paid for it. So,
When can one expect the prices to go up, even with the
mm,
other tokens, really? When can we really say we're going to start seeing the uptrend because it's been downtrend all the way?
yeah,
When will change come? Or is 2023 another year that people will just be dipping and, I mean, Zach, is
yeah,
there
no,
light at the end of this year? Or we should be just the light all the way?
I Yeah, I would say that there's a high likelihood that the price at the end of the year for Bitcoin will be higher than it is currently, um, or than the start of the year. So the start of the year at 16.5, there's a very high probability that at the end of the year it's at least going to be higher. Now,
Yes.
for me, um, it's just one of the things that I'm going to say I can't. I can't help people on as far as the exact timing of things. I don't want to speculate on it. Um, all I'll say is that, yeah, at the end of the year, I would have a very high confidence that it's gonna be higher than it did to start the year. I would also have very high confidence that 2, 3 years from now, it's much, much higher than it is right now. Um, some of it depends on where the global economy is going. If the entire the stock market, the bond market, if it continued to have a significant downturn in the entire, you know, Bitcoin might stay down longer than I anticipate. I think the whole FTX debacle hurt Bitcoin and the whole crypto space as a whole and pushed everything back. I would say push things back, like 6 months or so, 6 months to a year. I think that had significant impact on the industry and credibility as a whole. So there's certain factors that can come into play as far as timing. But what I will say is also 2022 was the historically the worst year I think in 100 for stock and bond performance combined. So,
Hmm.
it's not likely that you have 2 years in a row that are, uh, once in a 100-year performance metrics. So, um, that's what I would say about timing. I really don't like to give too much timing other than
Well, anything that is down, the only way for it to rise is to rise
yeah,
and go up. Mhm.
yeah, and you sound like a broken record, right? You buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. I get it. Listen, the as much as I love this space and it is cultish at sometimes. It is
Yes.
you feel like a broken record and it feels cliche at times, but um, that's just it is. I can't deny that. And anyone that's going to be like, well, you Bitcoin people say the same thing. Well, we do, and we've been saying the same thing for a long time.
Yes.
But time is the great definer, right? Time is going to be the great decider, and so far I think time's been very good to Bitcoin. Um, and I think the time will be very good to Bitcoin down the road. So that's what I'll say about that.
Yes, and look, digital currency is not going anywhere, and the sooner people get to do their research on these
Mhm,
and even Bitcoin, the better.
mhm.
Let's talk about some of the mistakes that young investors are making. Some of the biggest mistakes that young investors are making out there. Those who are just getting into investing or cryptocurrency.
Yes. The first thing, no, there's no experts. So
Hmm.
anyone that tells you they're like self proclaims that they're the most expert at this or they can predict that with precise, they're lying to you. And you know, I obviously think that I'm experienced in the space, but the space is really young, and there's no very maybe a couple, but there's really no experts. So the second thing I would say is any be wary of anyone that's promoting new projects, right? Anyone that's promoting new projects, you should view with skepticism because if you look at the number of projects that have lasted more than 2 or 3 years, and I mean lasted as in like not not just existed, but didn't go up 20 million% and then down to like almost zero. There's been maybe like a couple out of 10,000, 20,000 projects. So what are the odds that the person that's promoting this new project, there's like a 0.001% chance that whatever project they're promoting is going to be substantial in the next few years. So just
Hmm.
keep that in mind. I think people get suckered in with new projects and these great marketing and great promotion and big promise, big ideas. And the truth is, most of it it's not going to go anywhere. So be skeptical of those people. Be skeptical of people who claim they're experts in whatever. Um, you know, uh, I guess taking more risk than you, having this short term mentality, right? Now, part of the appeal of crypto and Bitcoin is that you can make a substantial amount of gain in a relatively short amount of time, but people have to be realistic about what that entails, right? Um, people like to point back, well, if I bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, it was like, or 8 years ago, it was like $10, and I would have, $1 million right now or something. The bottom line, no, you wouldn't. If you had bought Bitcoin at $10, you would have sold it. You would have sold it at 20. Yeah, you would have
Yes.
sold it at 20. So because you have
It's
this
true.
short-term mentality, so
Whew.
anyone that and same with a lot of these altcoins,
Yes.
if they're like someone bought Dogecoin 5 years ago and they're like, "Oh, if I would have sold it at the top, like I would have had $20 million." Like, no, you wouldn't have. So having this unrealistic idea of I'm gonna get in and I'm just gonna make so much money and just retire on a yacht and yada yada. That's not how things work. Um, if you are lucky like that, you probably either one took excessive risk that was just stupid and you got lucky, and you're probably going to lose it all by doubling down and being like, "Well, I made $1 million, I can make 5 million," and then you're going to lose it all. Or you probably were one of the scam coins that scammed a bunch of people and did
Hmm.
that. But people have to have a longer term mentality about the space. Um, there's short term times when we're in a big bull run and there's a bunch of crap coins that are going up a ton. Yeah, you can start to you can dabble in those and that's where you can see some huge gains. But be realistic about you know eh, money even at an accelerated return that Bitcoin has produced. It takes time, so don't expect to come in and just like just make a ton of money overnight and you get frustrated that things aren't moving or things are moving against you. Um, you're going to get taken advantage of. So be careful, be patient. Um, yeah, there is a lot of growth in space and money to be made, but um, if if you get too aggressive and too short sighted, you're gonna get wrecked. Um, and I've seen that a lot with people that come into the space new, and it's especially during a bull market. And there's like an altcoin or one project that they throw some money into that goes crazy. Well, they might make a lot of money off that one, but then they have this mentality that I can just do it again, And it's like, no, you hit like the 1% chance of doing that, and then you just like throw it another 1% chance, and it's like, it just don't do that. So that's a couple advice that I would give to people in the space.
Bringing you the good news all day long. You were tuned in to the hottest station on the planet. Keep it locked.
Look, you've given us. This is a master class, and if anyone doesn't want to listen to this one, well, I'm sorry for you, because we don't just only listen. It's good to also apply what you have had and do your own research on the side. He says anything outside Bitcoin is gambling. Get that into you. Look,
Yeah.
we yeah, well, I think you have hit something there. I'll leave that. He says it's never too late to start.
Never
Start
no.
anywhere, enter now, get in anywhere, because it will not always be like this. But be careful of FOMO, right? Be careful of FOMO. He says, be careful, be patient. Don't be emotional, right? Don't do this. Don't let your emotions take over. Zach, we at the tail end, but it will be an error to let you go without asking this one. If you had to start again tomorrow, will you do the same things that you did, or would you change your strategy? And somebody says, what made you not to sell your Bitcoin since 2014,
Yeah.
2016?
Good.
Well, I think
Good.
that we want to
Good.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. So if I had to start over completely again from scratch, I would do some things differently because, things are about timing, especially in a new space that's growing very fast and emerging. Opportunities aren't there all the time, um, and timing's a big part of it. So when I started my first business as a Bitcoin ATM company, that was all about timing. I started at the market bottom when no one cared about Bitcoin, when things were cheap. When I did mining, it was at the bottom when no one cared, when things were cheap. And it was all about timing. Had I started either of those businesses at, in the middle of the bull run while things are going crazy, they wouldn't have been successful. So that's what I would say is something that if I had to start from scratch, everything is about timing. So I wouldn't have done the Bitcoin ATM company. It wouldn't have, you know, economics just don't work. Maybe I would do some mining, but um, so yeah, just be conscious of that. It's a lot of it is about timing, and so when things are down and you're in a new emerging industry that has a lot of potential growth, that's when you want to start learning. That's when you want to start doing things hands on in the space. Um, that's where the opportunity lies. When other people are throwing away the towel and don't see it, and they're like, "Well, it's going to zero. It's never going." All the building under the surface is still there. It's really encouraging and remarkable. And then I would say what caused me not to sell my Bitcoin, and I should say it, I have sold Bitcoin few times. So I sold Bitcoin probably at like 65,000 to buy some property. So and I think I bought a boat too, but it's still less than half my Bitcoin. So I wanted to diversify towards the top to into other sectors, but no, but there's pricing that I'll never sell. I've been with Bitcoin enough, and I understand what the implications are. That for me, the pricing of Bitcoin that I'd be willing to sell it is way, way, way higher than what it's trading right now. Um, so that's why I wouldn't sell, because I think the value to me is much, much higher. Where I think it's going is much higher. So, you can't be perfect with timing. It just happened that opportunities arose where I was like, okay, I can allocate a little bit of my Bitcoin capital to something else that maybe provides more stability or reliability in the volatile nature of Bitcoin. Right. Uh, but yeah, there's no price that I would sell some of my Bitcoin at. I think it's that valuable. I think it's
Wow.
that valuable of an asset. So and I know a lot of people that think that way that are in the Bitcoin community that they don't really care about the price. There's not really a price that they're willing to sell at. If Bitcoin went to $1 million tomorrow, they would still hold some of their Bitcoin. Now they probably would sell some of it, but uh, it's that powerful. It's that powerful. It's that powerful an asset. There's nothing like it on the planet.
Wow.
So yeah, no. uh,
And
yeah. So what if I was just in for the short term speculation? Yeah, I probably would have sold. In when I should say the first 6 months that I was in Bitcoin. So obviously it was like $1,000, and then like I sold it like 5,000. I did the classic mistakes, right? I sold it 5,000, and I'm like, oh yeah, I just made really good money, and then it goes up to 10,000. I'm like, wait, should I get back in? And then it goes up to 15, and I buy back in, and then it goes down to 10, and I sell, and it's like, gets to the end of the day, it's like I have way less Bitcoin than I have. What was I doing? So it's all through some of these experiences I've had, and the time and the space has helped me discipline myself, um, during it. And I've made all the mistakes that I'm talking about. I've invested in crappy projects. I've fallen for scam. I've done everything that I talk about. It's only because I've messed up, right? It's only because I've lost
hmm,
money here, lost money there. So I try to learn from that, and then tell other people not to make the same mistakes that a lot of people that first start getting into the industry do. So no, it's been really awesome here. I gotta run, but
yes,
oh,
and
I
before
love
you do
talking
the
about it,
running,
and and I will tell, yeah, oh yeah, let me shout out if you want to reach out to me. Um,
yes.
Obviously my website for my book, fiction novel. Otherwise, my practice is Digital Edge Wealth Management. You can reach out to me via email, uh, or my website if you go to Google Digital Edge Wealth Management, and just I'm very open, and I'm willing to offer advice or help in any way that I can that's within my boundaries as an investment advisor. So, yeah, really happy when people reach out, and hey, I love helping people in the space. So, any questions you have, or you just want to yell, message me and say "F Bitcoin, you dumb miner" or something, something I don't know. It's fine. So, but
Thanks a
no,
gazillion
thanks for having
times.
me. It was awesome.
Thanks a gazillion times, Zach, for your time, for sharing your wisdom. Look, we release you, but happily, right? And to all those who have just joined us, we have had such an awesome, awesome time. And my question is now, look, let me repeat what he says. That anything outside Bitcoin is gambling. I don't think you want to gamble. I think those who are serious about investing, they don't want to gamble. But, well, go think about it. He said, it's never too late to start. You can start anytime, you can enter anytime, you can get into it anytime. But first, remember, be careful and be patient and take your emotions out of it. And my question is, where were you when Bitcoin was $300? Waar was jy eintlik? Huh? When Bitcoin was only $300. Well, to all our listeners and viewers around the world, well done.
MDN Talk Radio. The mic swings to you at MDN Talk Radio. The conversation is upbeat with life-enhancing chats moderated by personalities that matter. Exclusive conversations to keep our radio community interactive is with you now. Log on from the comfort of your couch or take us along in your palm as you go. Hear us. The undeniable choice.